Here's the other number one weather event of 2022. Most of you guessed these were correctly. One was the Arctic outbreak. The other one was the Yellowstone Park flooding that occurred during the middle part of June of this year. Now take a look at the factors for this. We have to go back a little further, all the way back to the springtime. The winter wasn't that bad out there. It was actually fairly warm across much of the area, but the spring was actually pretty cool and wet. We can take a look at the climate summary for April across much of the area. You can see everybody had below normal temperatures. In most areas as well had above normal precipitation. Lander didn't and Worland did, but just about everybody else did. Grable really noticeable, about 3 times their normal number. Then when we head into May, pretty much the same story. Above normal precipitation for most areas, also below normal temperatures. So that did a couple of things. One, it dropped a lot of snow in the mountains, and two, because it was cool, a lot of that was still up there as we headed toward Memorial Day, and a lot of snowpack that could be melted out. And then, you remember what happened on Memorial Day of that year? We had a very slow-moving area of low pressure that sat over the area, and the result was we had a lot of rain across the area. You can see the highest amounts across northern Wyoming. This is Wyoming, Yellowstone right there. This is just on ending the 31st. You can see some places picking up over an inch of rain. Then the next day, some places again picking up another inch of rain. So 2 inches of liquid precipitation fell up there, but it fell in the form of snow. Some places in the mountains, the Absarokas, picking up 3 feet of snow over a few days up there. Some parts of Yellowstone, 2 more feet of snow in the higher elevations. So there's a lot of snow up there. And the next thing that happened about 3 or 4 days before that, we had a strong ridge that built into the area. And we had some very warm temperatures that came into the area. You can see the Lake Yellowstone, these are the degrees above normal on average. You can see 4 to 5 degrees above normal. Further, other parts of the park were as much as 10 degrees above normal. It helped melt out a lot of that snow beginning then. And it also helped, so the rivers were running pretty high before this happened. Now I'll take a look at what happened when the straw broke the camel's back. This is what happened on Sunday. Take a look at the general upper air pattern. We can see a trough here. This is coming into the west. You can see that's going to help provide some lift, and see a little bit of upper level divergence come in here. We talked about that in some of the other videos. However, there was a couple of things that were really noticeable on this. You can see this on both satellite and radar. That's coming up next. Next thing we want to look at is the satellite loop. You can see this is the Pacific Ocean. It comes all the way across here. And we come over here to the mountains, and Wyoming is right about here. I'll draw that for you. There we go. Ignore that. This thing's having a couple of problems. Anyway, this is water vapor imagery, basically showing which way the water vapor is moving in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere. And you can see this whole area. You can see some moisture here coming all the way up here. There's a ridge here, down the trough, and then it comes up here and right up into Wyoming. This is what meteorologists call an atmospheric river, basically just a whole river of moisture moving in. And it's coming right into the western part of Wyoming, right there. And it hits those mountains, it upslopes, all the moisture gets squeezed out, and the result is we had some very, very heavy rainfall. How much rain? I'll show you in just a minute. Now I'll take a look at the radar loop. And you can see here we have a nice plume of moisture moving all the way up from Idaho, stretching all the way up into Yellowstone Park, especially in the northern part of Yellowstone, especially from about Yellowstone Lake on to the north. Now as we head later into the afternoon, you can, as soon as this comes around, you'll see it. You can see some enhanced echoes. There are some thunderstorms in here, but a lot of energy with this. In the warm sector down here, you see a couple of thunderstorms developing here, but watch right there. You see that right there? That was actually a supercell thunderstorm that developed in that area, and it did some pretty good damage out in the forest there. I'll show you that in just a minute. Remember I was showing you that little supercell thunderstorm there? It went through the Grove Vines to the east of Jackson and left this. A pretty good blowdown of trees, you can see, stretching across a pretty good area here. Now I originally thought this may have been just a microburst. But looking at the damage from aloft, we didn't get a chance to see this when we first surveyed it. It was only on the ground. Maybe a little bit of twisting in here, so we may have to reevaluate this. Could it have been a tornado? Maybe, maybe not. We haven't determined that yet, but stay tuned on that. But back to the rainfall. How much rain did we get during that 24-hour period, ending on Monday morning the 13th? Look where the max is, right over the northern part of Yellowstone. 2, 3, wouldn't be surprised if some places got 4 inches of rain up in that area. We look at the ground truth from some of the sites up there. Anywhere from about an inch down the southern portions of the park, all the way up to about 3.5 inches in the northern part of the park. Wouldn't surprise me if some places got as much as 4 inches up in here. As we look at one of the river gauges here, this is on the Gardner River near Mammoth. You can see pretty steady here, then it starts rising, and then we head toward the night of the Sunday night and Monday morning. It shoots all the way up here. Now the gauge actually stops reporting when it gets to 6 feet, so it got pretty high here, about 5.7, 5.8 feet, then gradually declined as we headed through the week. Now, 2 feet might not seem like much, but take a look at some of these images here. Yeah, this is on the north entrance, one of the roads washed out here. And this is the Gardner River here. Very, very impressive flow here. You want to see the video? Yellowstone Park put a really good video out showing some of the damage and a lot of the rivers running high and some of the roads falling into the river. So I'll post a link down below the video if you want to take a look at that. Here's another one. You can see the road completely washed out across this area. And one more shot of the damage here. You can see the road completely washed out here. It took a long time to rebuild this. So as we take a look at some of the impacts with this, Yellowstone Park, the whole thing was completely closed for about 10 days until about the first day of summer. And when it finally opened up again, there were a lot of restrictions there. Only the southern loop of the park was open into July, and there were restrictions on how many people could go in. I remember they had the odd even license plates that had to go in there unless you were a vendor. And numerous roads and bridges were washed out. Heaviest damage, northern part of the park, especially up toward the Montana border. And our neighbors to the north up in Montana got hit really hard. Places like Hook City, Gardner had a lot of flooding in the town. Some houses washed away as well, so a big tragedy for them. And more impacts with this. North Entrance Road actually didn't reopen until October 30th, so that was closed basically all year. It was a miracle, I think, they even got it open now. They were originally talking about this thing not even opening until 2023 when the season started again. And tourism to Yellowstone Park obviously was down substantially. They estimate about 20%. And the associated business, millions of dollars in lost revenue from all the fishing expeditions that got canceled, people taking tours of the park, so it really hurt their bottom line. And even now, even though a lot of the damage has been fixed, Mammoth Hot Springs Hotel is going to remain closed pretty much all the way through the winter since the infrastructure, the wastewater structure was damaged and they can't really repair that in the winter. Got to wait till spring until they do that. Well, there's our countdown for the top weather events of the year. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great 2023.